The man suddenly realized that his uncle's 3 friends were acting strangely. One of them pretended to go to the bathroom but slipped into the kitchen, killing the bodyguard and the maid. At the same time, 2 bald men in the living room also stood up. They were like butchers. First, they slashed Alex's uncle's tendons, then as he writhed in pain, they cut his throat. Seeing that they were about to come for him, Alex used his elbow to break free and bolted to the basement. One of the bald men quickly caught up, but Alex grabbed a dumbbell as a weapon and smashed it into the man's head while he was off guard. Soon after, the other bald man chased him down. Outnumbered, Alex had no choice but to hide inside his uncle's wine cellar. That's when he realized their target wasn't just his uncle. In panic, he called his mother at home. As soon as she picked up, she heard someone ringing the doorbell outside. "Mom, stay away from the door. Go find the emergency alarm switch in the bedroom." His mother then discovered that the house's main alarm system had been disabled, and the intruder was already trying to break in. She quickly followed Alex's instructions and activated the backup alarm. The siren blared through the house, forcing the assassins to retreat in frustration. It turned out the Godman family had once been one of the most powerful crime syndicates in Russia. 15 years earlier, their empire was taken over by their rival Vadim. The family was exiled from Russia and granted political asylum in London. Since then, Alex's father, the head of the family, had retired from the underworld, enjoying a quiet life. But his uncle Boris never accepted defeat. Obsessed with reclaiming the family's empire, Boris launched a reckless assassination attempt while Vadim was abroad. The bombing failed, and worse, it shattered the Godmans' 15 years of peace. Enraged, Vadim quickly discovered who was behind the attempt and struck back with brutal revenge. Watching his brother die, Alex's father, already old and frail, fell into despair. Now the burden of the entire family fell on Alex's shoulders. He knew Vadim's revenge wouldn't stop there, so he had no choice but to fight back. Alex had never been involved in the family's criminal business. Raised in London, he received an elite education and founded a successful financial firm. He was an expert in investments and numbers, but when it came to taking down a powerful mafia boss, he was completely inexperienced. Just as he was torn between choices, a man from Israel approached him with a business card, claiming that his employer had once been Boris's ally. He offered to help the Godman family. Curious, Alex agreed to meet. That's when he learned the truth. The man's boss, Kleiman, had suffered the same fate as the Godmans. His empire was stolen by Vadim, and he too was exiled. Unlike Boris's impulsive nature, Kleiman believed in patience, playing the long game. After years of hard work, he had secured influence in both Israel's business world and politics, owning the country's largest shipping company and serving as a well-known member of parliament. Although Kleiman had the resources to challenge Vadim, he preferred to remain safe by staying in the shadows, investing in Vadim's competitors and using financial power to slowly weaken him. His reason for approaching Alex was simple. He needed Alex's financial firm to launder money. "What we need is an economic war, not a street fight." Alex knew that once he took this step, there would be no turning back. His peaceful life would be gone forever. But thinking about his uncle's brutal death and his family's safety, he finally made up his mind to partner with Kleiman. Under Alex's professional handling, Kleiman's money was swiftly funneled through a series of international accounts and ended up in the hands of a man in Mumbai. This was the first shot fired in their war against Vadim. Kleiman had learned that Vadim was planning a massive smuggling operation through Mumbai to move goods into Europe, in collaboration with Russian contacts and Pakistan's intelligence agency. If they could hijack this shipment, it would shatter the government's trust in Vadim and deliver a devastating blow to his business. To uncover the shipment date and the vessel's number, Kleiman's men showed up at Mumbai's largest port with cash in hand. They lured a customs officer into a car, bribed him to keep tabs on Vadim's operations, and tracked down the shipping company responsible. After bribing a security guard, they stormed into the company's office after hours with the intent to steal every hard file and digital record in the director's office. But just as they were combing through documents, an unlucky accountant working late walked in. Shocked to see intruders, he froze. "If you say a word, I'll kill you." They dragged him to the director's computer and interrogated him. "Do you know which ship your boss uses to move the cargo?" "I don't know, I only handle the legal business." "Show us the files you're allowed to open." With the accountant's reluctant help, they copied everything they could, but when they reviewed the files, none of them contained any smuggling information. Clearly, they had underestimated the company director's security measures. News of the failure soon reached Alex. That's when he remembered a brilliant IT employee at his own firm. Alex met him and asked if he had any hacker friends in India. The next morning, an Indian technician heard a knock at his door. "Is anyone else in the house?" "Who are you?" Ignoring his questions, Kleiman's men barged in, searching the place until they found a room full of computers. One of them turned back with a sinister grin. The hacker was forced to go with them. His skills, however, were top tier. He quickly hacked into the phone of Chopra, the shipping company's director, and found transport details from Pakistan hidden in his email. He even managed to connect to the port's control system by entering a code into a vending machine at the docks. When shipment day came, everyone was on edge. Vadim, fully aware of its importance, stayed glued to his phone all night. Meanwhile, Alex was so anxious he couldn't go home, pacing nervously in a park waiting for news. Just as the hacker was forging the driver's clearance documents, disaster struck. Damn it, the power's out. The mission nearly collapsed, but the electricity returned just in time. The hacker frantically typed and completed the clearance papers. Kleiman's men got the green light. Go, get inside now. As Vadim's cargo was being loaded onto the ship, a heavy truck roared in, blocking the shipment.
Stop that container. There's been a mistake. The Srikanth steel container has to be returned.
And just like that, they seized Vadim's most crucial shipment. Furious, government officials immediately cancelled their cooperation with him. But before Kleiman and Alex could celebrate their first victory, betrayal struck from another corner of their business empire. In an office, a cautious man peeked out the window, then quietly executed a €5 million investment order. Strangely, the money wasn't used to buy any financial products at all. It was funneled straight into the hands of a crime boss in Prague. In the underworld, the two biggest trades, counterfeiting and smuggling, were both controlled by Vadim, the man who had murdered Alex's uncle. To weaken him on every front, Alex and his allies decided to back Vadim's rivals. They soon identified Resnik, Vadim's competitor in counterfeiting. Kleiman offered to invest heavily so Resnik could expand and stand against Vadim. They expected him to jump at the opportunity. Instead, Resnik, after admitting he hated Russians, demanded a massive deposit up front. Wire me €5 million first to prove you're serious. Then we'll talk. For Kleiman, such an amount was pocket change. He immediately called Alex to arrange the transfer, but to their shock, once Resnik received the money, he disappeared and turned off his phone. This is just a test, he's gambling with us, Kleiman insisted. To a seasoned businessman like him, this was humiliating, yet Kleiman naively believed Resnik didn't understand finance or the potential profits of working together. Hoping to change his mind, Kleiman brought Alex, the financial expert, to Prague, but when they met Resnik's lieutenant, Benis, their hopes were crushed. I'm afraid Mr. Resnik is busy. He sends his apologies. Resnik didn't even bother to meet them, sending Benis instead to dismiss the deal. With no other choice, Alex delivered a carefully prepared pitch to Benis. Their plan was impressive enough to convince Benis of its potential benefits, but over dinner, he revealed the truth. Resnik was not only a fool but also a coward, too afraid to challenge Vadim. His only goal had been to swindle them out of €5 million. If he's that stupid, why do you still work for him? Does working for your boss really need a reason? No sooner had they spoken than Resnik's crude voice rang out from the next table. Shut your mouth, this is my turf. The outburst pushed the normally composed Kleiman over the edge. Furious, he packed his bags and left Prague that very night. But as they headed to the airport, Alex turned to Benis, an idea sparking in his mind. With steady steps, he approached him. Benis seemed to understand and leaned in to speak privately. Time is short, so I'll be blunt. We're more than willing to do business with you. Alex's hint was all it took. Ambitious by nature, Benis wasted no time. That night, when Resnik opened his door, his own men beat him down. Despite his desperate screams, they dragged him to the balcony and threw him off. By morning, Benis had taken Resnik's place, and his partnership with Alex and Kleiman began. Fueled by Kleiman's steady flow of funds, Benis reconnected with old allies in the police force. Soon, Vadim's smuggling shipments were being seized one after another. Local partners assumed it was just tighter law enforcement, never suspecting a scheme. 3 months later, while reading the news in Moscow, Vadim finally sensed something was wrong. How could his operations be bleeding when Resnik was already dead? Police reports indicate no signs of forced entry or struggle. Though his men insisted Resnik's death was an accident, Vadim's instincts told him otherwise. Using his daughter's trip abroad as cover, he personally flew to Prague. On his very first day, he witnessed police shutting down 2 counterfeit handbag shops. After questioning his associates in Prague, Vadim confirmed that the 2 raided counterfeit shops belonged to his men. This only deepened his suspicion. Someone was moving against him, first killing Resnik and now targeting his business. To verify his hunch, Vadim went to Resnik's apartment. A former soldier, he still had reconnaissance skills. He quickly spotted signs of a struggle, and near the balcony door, he found one of Resnik's fingernails torn off during the fight. Find out who was assigned to this case. Though not the brightest, Vadim's partner was efficient. By the next day, he had captured the detective handling Resnik's case and discovered this same officer was also behind recent smuggling seizures. Furious, Vadim kicked the man hard, pressed on his wound, and growled, "I don't need a speech. Just a name." Finally, the officer choked out, "Carol Bennis." But if he thought giving a name would save him, he was wrong. Vadim had no intention of sparing him. Elsewhere, Bennis broke into a cold sweat when he heard his friend had been killed. He knew no local gang would dare touch a cop. That meant only one thing: they had provoked someone far more dangerous. To protect himself and his family, Bennis bought multiple burner SIM cards and anti-tracking apps to cover his trail. But he didn't know that Vadim's protector was none other than Ilya, a high-ranking officer in Russian intelligence. Not only an old army comrade, Ilya had been Vadim's closest friend for over a decade. With his vast intelligence network, it didn't take long to track down Bennis and his family. That night, a young woman in Prague was about to enter a nightclub when the security staff stopped her. They confiscated her phone and found a bag of contraband hidden on her. "What's this? You must have planted that on me." While she argued with the female guard, another quietly planted a listening device in her phone. She was then detained in a back room. The next day, a seemingly sympathetic officer approached. "Why didn't you say your father's a cop? Go ahead, call him." Terrified, the girl called her father, Bennis. The moment he picked up, Ilya's team traced his location using advanced intelligence tools. From there, they gathered all his sensitive data and uncovered the truth. The man backing Bennis was Kleiman. Who's with Kleiman? Only an assistant. The plot against Kleiman was set in motion. One night, as he slept, two policemen showed up at his home with an arrest warrant. Stunned, Kleiman followed them to the station only to learn his lover had accused him of rape and assault. A 70-year-old parliamentarian with a frail body, how could he commit such acts? It was obvious someone was framing him, yet without an alibi, proving his innocence would be nearly impossible. Worse still, as a public figure, the scandal spread like wildfire across the media. Once a respected figure, Kleiman was now disgraced. The blow wounded him deeper than death itself. Lost in despair, he was visited by Alex. Touched by Alex's concern, he recounted everything. That night, he had been at a private party with friends until 2 a.m., then went straight home and to bed, only to be woken by police at his door. "Whoever's behind this wants to destroy me completely." Shattered, Kleiman no longer wanted to fight Vadim. He sincerely urged Alex to let go of his hatred and return to the peaceful life he once had. "I just want to be left in peace for a while." At first, Alex only wanted to see if this storm would drag him in, but the next day, a witness came forward. He claimed he had attended the same private party and had personally seen Kleiman's mistress with another man. Alex and his associate quickly tracked down the party host and identified the man. After luring him outside, they used a bit of force and got him to confess. "Two men came to my apartment looking for me. They said if my girlfriend didn't report Kleiman for rape, they'd kill us." The young man admitted he only complied out of fear for his life, since the two men clearly looked like Russian mobsters. Hearing this, Alex promised to protect them and convinced him to testify on Kleiman's behalf. The next day, Alex brought the good news to Kleiman, but before Kleiman could breathe a sigh of relief, Alex laid a contract on the table. "What's this?" It turned out Alex hadn't come just to comfort his partner. He saw an opportunity to take advantage. Days earlier, Alex had received a mysterious call. The caller not only knew the exact account Alex was using to launder Kleiman's money, but also revealed knowledge of their fight against Vadim. Alex was shaken. At first, he had joined Kleiman to protect his family, but if their secret was exposed, his loved ones would be in danger. And soon enough, the nightmare came true. The news broke that Kleiman had been arrested. Alex knew that once investigators dug into Kleiman's finances, his own money laundering would be exposed. Just as he felt trapped, a man named Antonio approached him. Antonio was an underboss working for a Mexican drug lord. They had once tried to charter Kleiman's ships for their cargo, but Kleiman refused. Now, they turned to Alex, hoping he could make the deal happen. "Kleiman's goals aren't the same as yours. He only cares about profit. We can be your strongest ally." This forced Alex to reconsider. Antonio was right. He and Kleiman alone could never stand against Vadim. To better protect his family, Alex chose to ally with them. "Sign this contract, and that young man will go to the police and confess everything." Alex thought that by cutting ties with Kleiman, he could stay safe in the shadows. But before he even flew back to London, the last person he expected appeared before him. "Mind if I sit here?" It was Vadim. Without hiding his intentions, Vadim admitted he had orchestrated Kleiman's downfall. Before leaving, he even casually asked about Alex's family's health. The blood drained from Alex's face. Vadim knew he had been Kleiman's partner. When Alex returned home, the first thing he did was hire bodyguards for his family. To keep his girlfriend safe, he broke up with her and asked her to move out. But he didn't know Vadim had already dispatched surveillance experts to London. Alex's precautions fooled no one. Worse, his girlfriend, now living alone, became the first target. A neighbor approached her, pretending to congratulate her on the new home, then pulled a gun from her bag. Although the bodyguards rushed in just in time to save her, the attack ended Alex's relationship forever. It cost them their unborn child. The incident shook the entire family. Alex's father finally learned his son had secretly been fighting Vadim. He was furious, angry at his recklessness, and fearful for his safety. Yet, once he calmed down, Alex's father gave his support. He introduced Alex to a contact at the embassy, hoping his son could use the government to broker peace with Vadim. Unexpectedly, Alex's father's contact revealed critical news. What he's caused is far greater than the benefits. We don't want to stir up conflict with the British. Alex realized that within the Russian government, doubts about Vadim were already surfacing. His once unshakable protection was no longer ironclad. After careful thought, Alex made a bold decision. He went to Antonio, saying he wanted to open a new market for their business. When introduced to Antonio's boss, a Mexican drug lord, Alex offered to go to Moscow himself to negotiate with government officials, aiming to replace Vadim as their new partner. Hearing someone could expand his operations, the drug lord eagerly agreed. With his father's connections, Alex secured an opportunity to meet high-ranking Russian officials. Packing quickly, he set off alone for Moscow, but his father soon learned of his risky plan. Fearing for his son's life, he plotted to kill Vadim first. That day, two young women were chatting on a Moscow street when a thug approached. One of their fathers stepped in. It was Vadim. Suddenly, a clumsy hitman hired by Alex's father fired several shots and fled. At first, Vadim dismissed the attack as nothing, but when he turned around, he saw his daughter riddled with bullets. Call an ambulance. Moments later, Vadim's only beloved daughter died in his arms. His hatred for the Godman family exploded to new heights. Meanwhile, Alex had just arrived in Moscow. As soon as he presented his passport, customs detained him, confiscated his phone, and shoved him into a police car without explanation. He spent the night in a cell. The next morning, Ilya, the high-ranking intelligence officer, walked in, his face dark with rage. She was only 21. She had nothing to do with this feud. Alex instantly understood what had happened. He insisted he wasn't involved, but Ilya didn't believe him. As Vadim's closest friend and the girl's godfather, Ilya swore Alex would pay. That night, Alex was suddenly escorted out of his cell. The officers said he was being released and driven to the airport, but the car drove farther and farther out, finally stopping in an alley. Sensing danger, Alex feigned a craving for a cigarette and asked for one. The moment he stepped out, Alex spotted several cars approaching. Realizing he was about to be executed, he bolted. Vadim's men immediately gave chase. Split up, find him. Alex sprinted into a nearby subway station. Thanks to his long strides, he left them far behind. They searched each train car, unaware Alex had slipped out through an emergency exit. Emerging onto a busy street, Alex used his charm to ask a group of girls for directions and borrowed a phone. He called his father in London. After failing to kill Vadim, his father had waited anxiously for news all day. Hearing his son's voice, he finally relaxed, then quickly dispatched bodyguards to escort Alex to safety. The next day, after countless obstacles, Alex finally met with high-ranking Russian officials. Using his financial expertise, he pointed out the flaws in dealing with Vadim and the advantages of working with him instead. How is your business plan different from his? Alex explained. The traditional mafia style of running things, like Vadim's, was outdated. His partners only needed access to government ports to ship goods into Europe, and in return, while paying port fees, they could guarantee not to sell within Russia. The fees I'm talking about could be used to boost the legal economy, to build hospitals, schools. A deal that brought profit without threatening national interests. Of course, the top officials agreed. They immediately introduced Alex to the government's economic experts. There, he gave a financial presentation. Alex exceeded expectations, winning their support and officially becoming the government's new business partner. The old power, led by Vadim, was abandoned and swiftly crushed by the state. Take him out. After eliminating several of Vadim's lieutenants, they even kidnapped Ilya, then used his family to force him to reveal Vadim's hideout. Think of Anna. Think of your children. Meanwhile, Alex was calmly drinking coffee with senior officials when he was assigned a task to finish Vadim himself. They took him to an apartment building, telling him Vadim was inside. They wanted Alex to carry out the execution personally, his first act as a rising figure in organized crime. With Ilya's secret cooperation, Alex entered. Through the glass, he saw Vadim slumped against the wall, weak and defeated. In that instant, it felt like a century separated them. Yesterday, Alex had been the hunted. Today, he held Vadim's life in his hands. It was as if they had silently completed a transfer of power. Does Ilya want to pass along any last words? No. Vadim wasn't surprised to see Alex. Instead, he calmly accepted his fate. For a man who had lost his home, his family, and everything else, a quick death was almost a mercy. His final request was to look at a photo of his daughter one last time. A gunshot rang out. Alex had completed his transformation. The next day, he signed a deal with the Mexican drug lord, this time, as a representative of the Russian government. The once refined, sophisticated young man had now, in the blink of an eye, become the new crime boss of Russia's underworld. That concludes the story of McMafia. What do you think of this series? On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate it? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.